Okay, so today we're going to change the oil on this 2006 Mazda 6. It's got the 3.0 liter V6 in it. We'll pull it in the garage, put it on the ramps, and we'll get started. So one thing that I found is that sometimes the bumpers are too low down here, and these ramps will actually hit the plastic. So if you just take a 2x6, put it down like that, and you can pull right up on there. Okay, now we're up on the ramps. I always find that to be the scariest part. You don't want to pull off too far. If you come in, you can see right here, pop the hood. Okay, so now that the hood is popped, I don't know if you can see it under here or not, but there's a lever. If you put your hand in, it moves to the right. And you move it to the right, and it comes right up. And then you just pull out this pole. It just comes up in this hole. Okay, so once it's up on the ramps, we can get under the front of the car here. And this is your oil pan right here. And you can see right here, sorry, this 15 millimeter bolt. So you'll just grab your 15 millimeter, you put it on here, and you just remember lefty-loosey. Now these can be really tight sometimes. I'm trying to do this, sorry, I'm just going to show you a trick here. You can hook one wrench to the other to give you the leverage you need, and then it breaks loose like really, really easy without busting your knuckles trying to break it loose. And then since you've got your gloves on, you just keep twisting to the left. And then as it gets close to the end, you can kind of hold it against the hole and then just pop it out of the way. Now while that's draining, you just look at your the nut here. You make sure you got your washer on there. As I look at this one, it looks to be in fine condition. Don't need to worry about replacing it. And so this will take a minute. This holds about 6 quarts. This car doesn't use very much oil, and so we should have roughly 6 quarts come out besides what's in the oil filter. And so I'll pause for a minute while this keeps draining. Alright, so once it's pretty much done draining, you can see there's just a couple drips still coming out. You will just grab the bolt, put it back in. I just use simple paper towels. You can buy the blue ones from the store if you want. Same thing, they just cost a little more money. But then we'll just grab our 15 millimeter, if we can find it, and we will just tighten that back up. Okay, so we got the 15 back on here. You don't have to really tighten this up too tight, just nice and snug. And then you're set. And then if you just come straight forward from where the plug's at, right up under here, you can see the oil filter. Now there's enough room to get an oil filter wrench on here, but mine's just loose enough. I hand tighten them when I put them on, so I'm able to just loosen them back off. So I'll pause this while I loosen that, and then I will show you draining that and putting a new one on. Okay, so once it's loosened up, you will just twist this off, and the oil's going to start flowing out of this thing, and you will just want to let it drain for a minute before you take it all the way off, or you'll have one heck of a mess. It just drains all down the front of this engine pan, the oil pan. So once we put a new one on, we'll want to wipe all that off so you're not smelling burning oil for, like, you know, the first couple rides you go on. So we'll let this drain, then we'll take it off. Alright, so it's just draining just a little bit. So we'll unscrew it the rest of the way off, and you just got to be kind of careful when you feel it getting loose that you don't just let it go and splatter. You'll have a face full of oil. But we'll let that drain, and we'll go grab the new one. One thing you got to look at is there's a gasket on the bottom of that filter, that black thing right there. Occasionally these will get stuck to the engine, and you'll have to peel them off, but it's always good just to check that it's on here, and then you won't have problems. If there's one stuck to the engine, you put another one on, you'll have a heck of a leak. Okay, we're back out from underneath the car, and we just need to prepare the new oil filter. I just got one from Napa, and you just want to make sure that there's a gasket on the bottom of this. Now, it's always important with your new oil, just get a little bit on your hand, on your finger, and you just rub it on this gasket. Just make sure it's nice and saturated. And this just helps things to seal up and really good against the engine. Now, I'm just using conventional 5W20 just from Napa. There's a lot of different oil options out there. You've got synthetics, non-synthetics. I'm just using non-synthetic, just normal 5W20 oil from Napa, because I've got cars that have gone to almost 300,000 miles just using this cheaper oil. And there's only a few oil manufacturers, so it's all somewhat the same. So once you've got that filter nice and, or the gasket, sorry, oiled up and ready to go, we're crawling back under the car, and you can see right where that was at. And you can see the threads are on the inside of that hole in the middle, and you can see that stud sticking out. So you're just gonna, you can't hardly probably see this. You just put it up there, and you just thread it on. And once we get that threaded on, it's not too hard to get on. You'll know it just threads really smoothly. If there's any sort of hang up, you're cross threading it. You want to back off and start again. Now, one thing I do, because I've been having a glove on, is I'll get out and get a couple paper towels to use kind of as grip, just so it's not slippery, because sometimes you get a little oil on your glove and it makes it hard to squeeze that filter and twist it on. So back under we come down here, twisting, and I'm going to set this down for a minute while I crank it on with both hands really good. You don't have to really crank these insanely tight. They do need to be fairly tight, but you don't need to grab the wrench and really crank them on, or you'll hardly ever be able to get them off. So just a minute, we'll continue on. Okay, it's nice and tight. I was just able to use two hands, and when I took the glove off, it makes your hand just a little bit sticky, so you can really grip it and tighten it up. So the next thing we do is put our oil in. You can see it calls for 5W20, and with where we're at and the weather, 520 is a great option. So I just need to grab my funnel. You make sure it's clean. Sometimes these get dirty and you'll just need to put a paper towel in there and kind of clean it up a little bit. Put it in, and this takes 6 quarts of oil. So it's going to take a few minutes to put this oil in, but I'll put the 6 quarts in, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so after we put in the 6 quarts of oil, when you pull this out, it's always going to drip a little, so it's good to have a paper towel. Then you just take another one and just kind of wipe the inside out. You put your finger down in there and just kind of wipe the oil out. Then you don't have any leaks and it doesn't get dirty for the next time. Makes it kind of nice. We put the cap back on. And I will remove all these supplies. I know you can't see what's going on, but I'm just cleaning up enough. So after we have put the oil in, the filter's tight, you know, everything's done. You can see there's no oil leaks underneath there. It's time to get back in the car. And we need to start it up. And a lot of times you just need to let it run for a couple of minutes. I mean, a couple of minutes, like maybe 15-20 seconds. But I'm just backing it down off the ramps. I'll let it run for a second. Then what we're gonna do is just turn it off, let it set for about 10-15 minutes and check the oil and make sure we're where we need to be. So for folks who haven't changed oil very often, you're probably wondering, what do you do with the oil? You can see we have a little bit of a mess here. But what you can do is just take a paper towel and just clean your container up a little bit. And then one of these containers you can buy at Walmart for literally like $3. And then you can just empty this. You just open this up, pour it in, and you can do about 3 oil changes, and you can just keep that put in the corner of your garage until it's filled up, and then you can just take it over to your local recycle center. So I'm going to pour it in there, and then we'll check the oil on this car. Okay, so now that it's set about 15-20 minutes, we're going to check the oil. Now, I didn't explain before, but after you put fresh oil in it and you start up the engine and you let it run for about, maybe 20 seconds, what you're doing is you're letting that oil cycle through the oil filter, because there's a residual amount that stays in there. And so by doing that, it lets the engine get up to pressure, gets oil where it needs to be. Then you're turning it off, you're putting it on level ground, letting it set for about 15-20 minutes, and then all the oil sinks back down into the pan, and you can get a an accurate reading on your oil. So this is the oil dipstick. You just grab it and pull it up. It's kind of hard for me to hold this with one hand, but let's see if I can get this to focus. You can see those 2 holes right there. As long as your oil is between those 2 holes, you're in good shape. Mine shows that it's about halfway up. Kind of see it better on this side. Almost to the top of the good zone there at the top hole. So if you're there, then you're in good shape. So it's pretty simple. There's really not a whole lot to it. The hardest part's just hauling the oil down to the recycle center. So like I'd mentioned before, there's a lot of different types of oil you can put in. You can do full synthetic, or like this Napa oil that I put in. It's a synthetic blend, which means it's half synthetic, half normal oil. I think they're all pretty good oils. So best of luck to you.